Welcome everyone, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for this NOCTI Spotlight webinar. This is the third and final installment of our Spotlight series that focuses on resources for new CTE teachers. My name is Ashley Campo. I am the Outreach Coordinator at NOCTI, and I will be facilitating the webinar for you guys today. We'll be discussing topics like gaining visibility in your community and giving back, as well as becoming a CTE professional. I'd like to introduce our presenters for this session, Dr. Pam Foster, Education Consultant, and Dr. Greg Belcher, the Founding Director of the Kansas Center for Career and Technical Education at Pittsburgh State University. Quick note, Pam unfortunately is a little under the weather and has a bit of a sore voice. She's going to do her best to present everything to you guys, but just be aware of that, and myself and Greg may be jumping in to help her out if it gets a little bit rough. So thank you for joining us with that. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Everyone, please welcome Pam and Greg.
Hello, everybody. As you can tell, April Fool is still with me. I've had laryngitis now for 4 days, but hopefully we'll make the best of it. So the first webinar that we had in book 1 was your first year in CTE, 10 things to know. And that was really targeted more for a teacher that's coming from building trades area into being a career technical educator within the first few months of that transition, because there's a lot of big differences between those two areas. And then the second book, which is 10 more things to know, is a little bit more for the second half of their first year. And now today, 10 additional things to know kind of focuses more on the teacher that's made that transition, and they're in there for 4 more years. So our goals today are going to demonstrate how to gain visibility in your community and how to provide, we're going to provide some examples for giving back to your community that you could maybe copy or modify for your use, and Greg will be discovering or talking about some of the expectations for becoming a CTE professional. So I'm going to start things off. So we'll take a look at the next slide. Just a quick activity if you care to either talk or send in a text message through chat. But I'd like you to think of one person, maybe 2 or more come to mind, but who was that special person who really had a major influence in your life? And to think about what it is about this person that had such a positive impact on you. If we have some people out there that be willing to share, go ahead and do that now, please. Okay, I see that Greg Belcher, which is going to present after me, he said that that particular person that was important to him believed in him when he did not believe in himself at that time. And that's important, that's true. Any others out there? Okay, Debbie, thank you for your response. You said your mother and father for instilling and giving back to their community. So they were role models for you, which is excellent. I know personally myself, when I think about somebody that's had an impact on me, it wasn't necessarily always the content that they taught me, as, for example, as an educator, one of my teachers. It was more their personality and how they treated the class and how they interacted with me and showed respect. I think we'll move on because we can kind of build upon this. All of you are thinking in your own way about people that have impacted you and what you remember them for. So we need to remember here in this slide that we have 4 key beliefs that teachers should communicate to their students, and that would be that I belong to the CTE community. My ability and competence grow with my effort. I can succeed at this, and this work has value for me. And anybody that's in education and teaching students or adults know that you get a lot out of it, even though you put a lot of work into it. It's just some non-tangible things that you get out of it, sometimes even more. One other thing that I'm going to add in here in between this too is that in a recent American College Testing Survey, It's stated that 98% of surveyed state CTE directors reported that shortages of qualified CTE instructors has been a key priority for their state. And knowing this now, how do we encourage others to enter the field of CTE at the local and or state levels, and how can we increase your visibility in your community for CTE? So I just want to throw that out there as well. So remember that you are a role model for your students. And nationally, the average time that a CTE teacher spends with his or her students is probably around 480 hours over the years of the program. Typically, CTE teachers are with their students, maybe 3-hour period, where more of an academic teacher might be with their students each day, 45 minutes, 55 minutes. And then a lot of times if you're an academic teacher, as I was in biology, I had them for 1 year, whereas a CTE teacher might have some same of the same students for perhaps over a 3-year period or longer. So it's incredible the impact that CTE teachers can have on their students, sometimes spending more time with them each day than what they might spend on an average with perhaps their family. Another bullet here at the end is you need to work to transform yourself into an educational leader. So let's think about some examples of giving back to your community. You could assist with career technical student organizations, what we call CTSOs, FFA, Skills USA. There's ones in a whole bunch of areas. So you can maybe just initially start trying to help out with an activity or so, and maybe eventually you could become an advisor and get even more involved. Definitely being a role model for those kids outside of the classroom as well. If you're at a comprehensive high school, as I was, you can help with those activities perhaps, or even sporting events, perhaps even coaching, if that's a passion of yours. Any kind of extracurricular activities outside of school. Some other examples are being to network with local organizations, especially if they provide scholarships or internships, possibly for your students, and then maybe employment later on. This would definitely help to bridge the skills gap that some communities face in finding skilled workers. We know that the baby boomers are retiring, and a lot of technology has occurred since then. So some of the things that baby boomers did at one time are being replaced by technology, but there are still certain career areas where you need to have that content and that skills as well. And so trying to bridge that gap, because I understand it's a challenge for quite a few industries and businesses out there. Another thing, giving back, you could join professional organizations for leadership opportunities, such as ACTE, individual trade organizations. I have there the American Welding Society. There are many, many others. Your local Chamber of Commerce, Rotary. You can involve your students with some community projects. For example, health occupation students could help with a blood drive. Building trades could work with the Habitat for Humanity project, and culinary students with community food drives.
Just a couple of other additional ways that you can help become more visible in the community that you're living and working in. You can write an article and have it published in your local newspaper, or if you have a professional organization. So for example, we mentioned ACTE, they have their techniques journal that you could publish an article in. You can be a guest on a local radio or television program. They're always looking for guests. They're always looking for people to come in and talk about what they're doing in community for your local radio stations. So that's an option. You can host or help to sponsor a charity or fundraising event, and doing something like, what's shown on your screen here that's actually within your specific trade is always a great idea, such as, building trade students doing a Habitat for Humanity project. And then you can join, attend, and speak at different functions that are hosted by your local Chamber of Commerce. Your local chamber is usually a really rich area to network and learn and really get to know who's doing what, the movers and shakers in your community. So that's a great idea as well. However you do choose to become involved beyond your duties as a teacher, you do it for your community, you're doing it for your school and your students, but do keep in mind that any sort of giving back, you're doing it for yourself to enrich yourself and your own skills. You're likely to find that a lot of the opportunities that you look at are well worth the time and the effort that it takes to put into them. So they're definitely worth checking out and finding those ways to give back that really enrich you and your community.
And if I can just kind of jump back in here again, in the books, we have some content information initially, and then towards the end, we give some case studies where examples of how people have actually done things to give back, to become more visible in their community. So some real cases. And then at the end of each chapter, we have what are called key learnings. And it's just kind of a quick summary of those major parts of the chapter. And so thank you for bearing with me today. My husband's probably happy that I can't talk too much, but I appreciate your attention here. And if you will kind of just listen again to what Greg's going to share with you about expectations of your CTE profession. Thank you.
Hey, one of the things that I just want to start off with is our CTE teachers come to us in multiple pathways. And one of the ways that they come to us is they are working in an industry and they decide that they want to move into the teaching arena. And so those individuals have a great deal of knowledge and skill in their content area. The other group of teachers come to us through a pre-service program. And so those individuals have went and received a 4-year degree. They have a good understanding of the educational environment, but they probably lack a depth of their skills and knowledges that they're teaching. And so I just kind of want you to keep in mind as far as that CTE professional, or as they grow as a professional, usually they do have some unique needs. But as this slide states, it says it takes a community. It really takes a group of individuals to help grow teachers, and not only to grow them, but to also to maintain or to keep them in the classroom. And it's so critical that as they do grow, that they also continue to give back to that profession as well. And as I go through these different slides here, I'm probably going to reiterate that a number of times. So one of the first parts is just stating about their professional development is becoming a part of a larger group that they have a similar type of a background. And so just some examples as far as those professional organizations, ACT is one, the Association for Career and Tech Ed. Within that national organization, they have the state affiliates as well. And so most any CTE teacher fits in one of those affiliates within the state organization. And so how do they participate or are getting them to participate in those professional organizations? Additionally, it's critical for our CTE teachers to stay very engaged within the trade organizations as well. So the areas that they came out of, or those areas that they're teaching, we want to make sure that these CTE teachers are also involved in those organizations as well. That helps them to maintain as far as what are the trends and issues within their content area, what are some of the challenges, what's on the horizon as far as that they need to be changing within their programs, and how they need to prepare themselves for these changes. As we look to improve the professional, personal, and leadership skills, there's really a number of ways that they can do this. And that first one that's listed there is college courses. And I want you to be thinking of that CTE teacher. They have two challenges of professional skills that they're staying up with. And that's one is their content, and the other is those professional education skills. But a number of times these individuals are asked to pursue or to hold a certificate or a licensure by the state so that they can teach in that state. And so many times there may be coursework associated with helping them to obtain or maintain that certification. Additionally, you can look at those colleges, maybe technical college, community colleges, that are also offering courses in the technical area so that their technical skills are enhanced as well. And you want to really be thinking too, as far as college courses, degree obtainment, many a times really assist a teacher in movement on a salary schedule as well. Now, the next two bullets I'm going to talk about together, and that's conferences and workshops. And basically, we see conferences and workshops in three different, or there's really three different types. The first conference workshop type of piece is where they are teaching some technical skill and knowledge. And so it's very much so that they can add to their skill set the new skills and knowledges needed to teach within their area, the technical skill. Other conferences and workshops may be purely focused on those professional education skills. And so it is, how do you assess students better? How do you better manage your classroom and lab? How do you manage project-based learning? And so those tend to be very much professional education type of conferences and workshops. And then the other workshop, or the other type of conference and workshops, is a combination of those two. And so they're learning both how to teach something maybe, as well as a new content or new technical skills that they have. And many times these are tied to a professional organization like ACTE or their state affiliates that they do have. As far as when we look at the leadership, there's a number of leadership opportunities in organizations as well. And whether these are trade organizations or a professional organization, this really provides that CTE teacher an opportunity to grow their leadership skills and really to give back to the profession in a very positive way. And so they can serve it as an officer or even just as a very active member in those organizations, both at the or at the local, state, and national level. As we start to look at resources for instruction, remember that a CTE teacher, they have a challenge that most academic teachers do not have, and that is that their content is constantly evolving. And I'm just going to give you an example of, I was visiting with a network teacher not too long ago, and he stated that sometimes his curriculum that he would develop to teach one semester would become very dated by the end of the semester. And so he was constantly having to stay up with the changes that was taking place in the networking communications field. And I think as you make a comparison of this to an academic teacher, such as a math teacher, math is not evolving like it is within the CTE area. And as these individuals that have left their field to go into teaching, sometimes it's hard, all of their professional growth that they're doing, it may be more educationally related. And so it's easy for them to lose track of or lose that connection of staying up with that content within their area. But it's very, very critical that they do that. Additionally, we need to constantly hone our skills as teachers. And so what are those different teaching methodologies? What are the things that I can try that really make me a more efficient and a more effective teacher? And one of the recommendations I have always for our new teachers is for them to take a professional day or two and constantly go out and watch other teachers teach. And whether that's in their content area or in another area, we learn so much just through example. And so this is I think is something that we really need to take advantage of, or any of those opportunities. We just recently had a workshop called Geometry and Construction, and it was really neat because we had a mix of math teachers in there with construction teachers. And so it gave each of them an opportunity. It gave the construction teachers an opportunity to see how geometry is taught. And it also gave those geometry teachers a new understanding of the geometry that is involved within construction and how a construction teacher may teach that. And so by looking at those opportunities like that, we can continue to hone and develop our skills as teachers. Additionally, Pam had talked earlier about opportunities for our students as well. And we're there to serve our students, and we want them to grow professionally. We want them to grow with their skills and knowledge in our content area, but we also want them to be a contributing member of that profession. And so through the career and technical student organizations, that is a great way of getting them to begin to plug in. But also look, what are those other professional development opportunities for those students? And I think many of those times that those opportunities for those students are also very good for those CTE teachers as well. And then this last part about accessing professional development opportunities, I would highly recommend, as far as if I'm talking to a CTE teacher, instead of them being passive in professional development, I think they really need to take charge of that and be very active in identifying what are their weak areas, both as a teacher and maybe what are their weak areas in content as well, so that they can real actively seek out those professional development opportunities that fit their needs. And in many instances, the professional development opportunities that a school may push their teachers to get may be so that they can keep their licensure or their credential or their accreditation status. But it's also critical that a teacher grows beyond those. And we do have Perkins funding that assists us in professional development. And I would say in current tech ed, we do have very expensive professional development items that are out there, but with Perkins funds, it's a way to help to reduce those costs to the school. As we continue to see the changes that are taking place in the content area, I feel that in current technical education, this is probably one of the biggest challenges for our CTE teachers is how do you maintain the skills and knowledges that are needed within your area? And it is, how do you stay up with the field? How do you stay up with the trends and issues? And so some component of professional development really needs to focus on making sure that content is addressed. Another area as far as professional development is helping others, and especially new CTE teachers. We see that new CTE teachers, we lose the biggest percentage of them in the earliest stages of their career. And this is no different than academic teachers, but within those first 3 to 5 years, it is a very critical time. And I think CTE teachers may have an additional challenge that academic teachers do not have. And that is that they are usually the only teacher like them at their school. And so they may be the only FACS teacher or ag teacher, And so they don't necessarily have that opportunity to rub elbows with another teacher at their school that is like them. And so any way that we can assist those new teachers in their roles, whether they're at our school or at another one, I think is very advantageous for the profession. Also, we just need to participate in those local, state, and national level organizations. And I don't mean in a passive way. I mean, we need to join them, but we really need to participate and be actively involved in them. And I think that really challenges us and grows us as far as some of those professional skills. And the last item that I have on this slide is just subscribe to professional and trade journals. Pam had mentioned earlier about the Techniques magazine that is published by ACTE, and that really gives us a good picture of what is happening on a national level and even what is going on in different states. But we also need to be looking at what is going on within our state and also our content area. And so join up with those professional organizations in our trade areas, and most of them have some journal that go with them, whether it's welding, automotive, EMS, EMT, the marketing business. All of them have some of those professional or trade information that goes along with their organization. Now, here are just kind of the 5 key points that I want to reiterate as far as becoming a professional. And that first one, it just says becoming a CTE professional takes commitment, time, talent, and participation. And so what I would recommend to any CTE teacher and or CTE administrator is really put that teacher, that CTE teacher, in the driver's seat as far as their professional development. They are the ones that are best able to recognize their weaknesses, both as a teacher or the content challenges that they're having. And I would say plan that out, put that down on paper, plan out even beyond a year and maybe a 3 to 5 year schedule as far as what is that teacher going to look at as far as professional development opportunities. And be very specific in the growth that they are trying to obtain. The next one, just develop a trusted professional network. Isolation is one of the biggest factors that CTE teachers face. And as I stated earlier, that sometimes they're the only teacher like them at the school. And so it's very easy for them to isolate themselves away from other teachers. So it's critical that you get plugged in either within the school or even in a larger group outside of that school as well. And a lot of times this can be done by the next one, and that is through professional organizations. And what I found as a teacher, my network quickly expanded when I joined professional organizations. And once again, some of those were within the educational arena and others were within my trade area as well. And so that greatly influences the number of professional contacts that you have. And I think it even helps us to better understand some of those professional development needs that we do have. And then just a final deal on those professional organizations is don't just join them, but really be active within them. And you may be just active as a member, and some people may choose also to seek some leadership positions within those organizations as well. Number 4 just says join ACTE. ACTE is a great voice as far as what is going on nationally and also within other states. But as we talked about earlier, many of those affiliates that are a part of ACT at the national level, we have those at the state level. And it's so critical that we're not going through this alone, that we have some peers that we can lean on, and that they can lean on us. And it's something collectively to make our profession better. We need to do that as a group, not as an individual. And then this last one, I really beat the drum on this, is somehow or another that CTE teacher needs to maintain their expertise within their content area. And this is so critical for CTE teachers. We can quickly become outdated as far as what we're teaching if we're not plugged in with what is going on within our field. And so what are those activities, whether they're classes, workshops, conferences, what are those things that we can attend that make sure that we're keeping the skills and knowledges that we're teaching are most current and most relevant? And Ashley, I'm going to turn that back over to you then for the Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Pam, for your input and all of this excellent information that we went over.
If I could just add a little bit more to tag on to what Greg said about trying to become an effective CTE leader. We all understand you need to have really excellent communication skills. You need to be able to reach people in a variety of ways, like talking, such in my lovely voice as I have today, and writing, texting, using social media where appropriate, mentoring, volunteering. We really need to lead by example, words and actions. And we need to be resourceful as much as we can to try to improve upon yourself and helping others, and network with others to achieve new goals. And another thing that Greg was talking about there at the end, take time to reflect at the end of every school year and gather feedback from people that were involved. Think about what didn't go as expected and what things could be changed to improve the end results and what went well, and then do remember to celebrate the successes. So I just wanted to kind of add that into what Greg was saying at the end.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Everyone is unmuted, or you can unmute yourself. If you have any questions for Greg, Pam, or myself on anything that was covered today, feel free to shout those out. You can also type any questions that you have into the chat box and we can address those. And just a couple of things while we're waiting for those questions to come through. We have recorded today's presentation and it will be available on our website in about a week. And I will be sending out a copy of the PowerPoint as well to everyone. So you should see that in your inboxes this afternoon.
And if they want to hear my lovely voice the way it should sound, they can listen to that first webinar from February the 14th and the second webinar, which was back on March the 12th. That's more about like I should sound.
Yes, and that's another great point, Pam, is that we do have the two previous sessions for this Spotlight series are available on our website right now. It's 10 things CTE teachers need to know, and then I believe 10 more things CTE teachers need to know are the titles of those, and you can find those on nocti.org under publications. We'll keep the lines open for just a couple more minutes here. If we have any more questions come through. Oh, we have one from David here. How would you recommend finding others locally in my CTE content area? Greg and Pam, can you reflect on that?
Well, David, one of the things I'd recommend is look at are there professional organizations that fit within that? And I taught in the welding arena, and so we had a local AWS chapter that I could be a part of, also as well as a state and national level as well. So you may search out as far as the content and look and see, are there local or kind of some district organizations that are close to you that match content. And we have the great tool of Google now to help us achieve that in many instances.
I would add to that to reach out perhaps to other CTE schools in your area. I know I was able to take a new teacher in precision machine technology and connect him up with another person in that career area in a different school district. And he was able to take a professional day to go down and observe that teacher in the same content area. And this was a veteran teacher, and he was able to talk to him and a lot of interaction there. And I know he found that very helpful during his first year of teaching. So reach out to other, even though they're not in your own school, maybe you can take a professional day or, talk to them by way of email, a blog or something. There are opportunities for you. You might have to do a little research to reach those people though. A lot of time there's business classes in the academic schools too, so don't limit yourself. Reach out to anybody, and you would have specific things too that you might want to kind of narrow down the focus of certain business areas. But yeah, you might have some advantage just reaching out to not only CTE places, but also academic schools as well.
And David, I'd recommend also just through your state contacts, the individual who oversees your pathway or your program within the state, connect with them, and I think they may help you connect with the dots of some other teachers that are like you that may be very close to you and or very close to you as far as in geography.
These are great questions, everyone. Thank you. I do just want to quickly point out both Greg and Pam's email addresses are on your screen right now. Should you walk away from today's presentation and think, oh, wait, I had a question, you can always contact them. And then our email address, nocti@nocti.org, is an easy email to remember. You can email us with any questions or thoughts that you have, and we'll get you connected with someone who can answer your questions for you. We have a pretty active chat going on, but I'm not seeing any other questions coming through. So at this time, I just want to say thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for participating. Thank you, Greg and Pam, for all of your wealth of information you shared with us today. And I am going to go ahead and close out the session then. Thank you, and everyone have a great rest of your day.